Right, so I think we can get started. Lindsay, you got the first item?
Hi. I apologize for any noise in the background. I have the honor to have the first item to introduce Tiago to everyone who hasn't had a chance to meet him yet. On his request, he wanted to join to get an opportunity to say hello to the group. So he's here today, and I'll let him go ahead and say hi to everybody.
Thanks very much, Lindsay. Good day, everyone. And thank you for figuring out how to invite me before I'm officially started. I've got a couple of weeks left at BT Security, where I work now, and I'm looking forward very much to join, which is on the 6th of April on Monday. And then I got my first call with Wayne on Tuesday, nice and early, 6 a.m. So should be good. On the personal side, I'm in Sydney. I've got a couple of daughters. They are at school age, 6 and 8. They're not going to school right now because of the whole COVID thing. And from a hobby level, I like reading sci-fi books. I like brewing kombucha. And when the swimming pool's not closed, I try and go there for exercising a couple of times a week. So yeah, really looking forward to working with you all.
Awesome. We're looking forward to your start in a couple of weeks.
Thanks for joining us both today and in general, Tiago.
My pleasure.
So I guess second announcement is mine is please welcome Nick from the documentation team to our team as our new stable counterpart from documentation. He's moving to our team from the secure stage. Nick, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are, how long you've been at the company?
Yeah, sure. I'm based in central Illinois in Champaign-Urbana, which is University of Illinois is located there. It's about 3 hours south of Chicago. So I like to refer to it as the Great Flatlands because it's completely flat and just full of corn and soybeans, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, I'd been onboarding to the secure side of things in the last month. So now things have shuffled around a bit. So I'm going to be moving to the defense side. So yeah, I'm looking forward to working with everybody.
Awesome. Nick, can you remind us in the process when we have a feature change that requires a change to the documentation? I think if I remember correctly, we put the documentation tag on it and then add you.
Yeah. So tag it with documentation, and there's a few. It depends on what all is in the MR. But if it's documentation only, then the docs only label, and then also the technical writing label. So.
And you're going to be fully engaged starting with the next release, not the release currently.
I think there's some confusion on that. So I'm trying to get
Maybe we had both you and Amy for now, and you guys can fight it out.
Yeah, because what I'd first heard that this was going to be happening after 12.10, and then some people in the tech writing channel, Docs team channel, were talking about it happening during 12.10. So I need to get that clarified.
Tiago, you had something to add, I think?
I wanted to ask, is there a difference between the documentation label and technical writer or writing label?
Yeah, so the documentation label, it's like kind of magenta in color, and it's lowercase d. So that's just anything with documentation. The technical writing label, I think it's green or greenish, capital technical, capital writing. That's more or less to let us know that we can start working on it. So, and I'm not entirely sure behind the scenes how those labels get used, but I do know that somebody uses them and does some reporting with them.
Thanks very much. I'll figure out the context sooner or later.
Yeah, I will too. I'm relatively new myself. So.
Then teach all of us, Tiago, when you're done, okay?
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. So I guess I had the next one. So, and questions already answered, but we'll verbalize it. Do we want to encourage one or two Defend developers to become domain maintainers, such as front end or back end or database, or for specific defend specific items, so we can have a tighter loop in getting our changes approved and merged, but also so that we can help the rest of the company get changes. And we don't have any maintainers currently, so we depend on the maintainers that are in other stages. So net is Daniel's already considering this for front end. Zamir, you're planning to do this for back end, and I think Arthur may also be considering this as well, maybe with a focus on the monitor stage. We're already off to a great start. The first step is to become a trainee maintainer, which is a whole process for that, and there's an issue for it. And it is not a small amount of work, so definitely keep that in mind. But I think it's very it's a great thing for us to be doing. So I guess if there's others that are interested, definitely just let me know in Slack or here real time now if and create that trainer issue. So I guess the question is, are Daniel and Zamir any insight in this? And then I have another question too, but I know you guys are just you all are just thinking about getting started, but any impressions so far?
No, for me, I had this idea. Thomas helped me figure out that as a technical part of the technical learning. And he saw a couple of MRs that he liked it. So then I found out it's a great idea. And then you came up with this a couple of days ago, and I said, okay, yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Daniel, any impressions?
None so far.
Okay.
I have two questions. One, won't everybody on the defend team sort of become a defend maintainer, like if we're here long enough?
It's possible. There's a whole training process for doing it. And right now we don't have a subdomain called a defend maintainer. It's kind of a back end or front end or database, and it's across the entire product.
I see.
But there's definitely that's actually one of the questions. Should we have, and it's just an open question, a domain maintainer specific to things that we need? Like, I don't know if we'd have a defend maintainer, although that's where I started too, Alexander. But perhaps in some specific skills that we have that we need and other teams may need as well. Like perhaps maintainer that knows Kubernetes really well. We use Kubernetes heavily, and some other teams do as well. So just a thought, but I think starting with the standard domains of front end, back end, and database, for us, front end and back end, I think are a good start.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and that leads us into my second question. I guess I was under the assumption that like all engineers aspire to one day getting to maintainer status for their respective domains, front end, back end, database. Is that not true? It sounds like actually an opt-in thing.
I think it's a personal choice. Like there's someone that's working on first-class vulnerabilities that is doing everything, has all the knowledge and to be a maintainer, but has chosen not to be. So they'd rather not be. I don't know the reasonings. I'm sure there's good reasoning. So it's not something that it's a great thing to do, but it's surely not required, and surely not required to progress in a career.
Got it. Thank you.
What do other folks think? All right. No, great question, Alexander. Thank you. Lindsay.
One thing to add, for folks that are still onboarding, everyone should be a reviewer. And I know that at least for Daniel, I think that there was a step that was missing to get a file updated to actually become a reviewer. So if you're not a reviewer today and you've made it through your onboarding, talk to myself or Wayne, and we'll make sure that when you're ready, you become a reviewer. And I think typically it's usually around 6 months at the company before people look to become a maintainer. Depending
start
on
the process,
experience, right? And that process itself, the training takes, I think they call it a traintainer is how I've heard it referred, can take up to 6 months too.
Got it, thank you.
Are you a maintainer? Do you have anything to add to this? Did you go through this process?
Is that to Lucas?
Sorry, I missed my name in that. We have maintainers and reviewers for different projects at GitLab. When we refer to maintainers and reviewers, generally it's referring to the Rails monolith, but We do have maintainers for smaller projects as well. I've maintained smaller ones, but I've not maintained the monolith. And I'm not sure I want to, but that's a personal choice because it takes a very large amount of time in review and doing other things as well. So it does affect your work.
And I'm guessing that other maintainers would be open to talking to people who are considering this and giving their feedback on, you know, the effort they went to for the training and the time that it takes out of their day to day, and maybe their decision making process when they decided to become a maintainer as well.
Yeah, and so we're currently in the process of creating a maintainership program for security products as well. Within the secure team, there's a number of smaller repos, and there's been a discussion. I'll link it in it's linked in the Slack thread that Wayne has, but I'll just put it here as well. This is the initial maintainer review criteria that we've been discussing. Most of this is documented as well because it's company-wide, but it doesn't have to do with how long you're tenured at the company. It's just familiarity with the overall product. And what we're primarily focused on in that case is the consistent contributions to the code base to ensure that you're familiar with it and know the ins and outs of that. That way, ideally, the split is reviewers care about like basic functionality, things like ensuring it works, and then maintainers is the level that actually cares about consistency across the entire code base. It's less focused on the bolts and the smaller parts.
I think that's good education to know just for how you interact with your reviewers and maintainers, whether you are one or not, too. I think the last agenda item is mine. If no one has any other comments around this or questions. And admittedly, mine is just kind of a lecture. This is just a reminder that with our asynchronous communication, it's really important to use our tools wisely. I think this applies to both our issues and to Slack. I don't spend as much time giving reviews and MRs, but I'm assuming the same thing applies here. And my ask is just be really conscious about how you use comments. So when you add a comment to an issue, make sure that you've got one topic in there. If you're putting a bullet point of 3 or 2 or more topics that becomes hard to reply to in line, when you're replying to a comment, reply in line whenever possible. Try and keep the conversations specific and separate from each other. So I've just seen this happen a lot with sort of the run-on sentence of comments right now. This makes it easier for someone like myself to follow, who's not necessarily driving the conversation, but I think it also makes it easier for other people to jump in and give their feedback and questions as well. So it's just a friendly reminder. I'll try and be more asynchronous about it in the future.
And the other is, on that note, also keep that in mind for Slack conversations as well. To use threaded conversations whenever appropriate, and that can get out of hand as well, but that's a good thing to do. So it's not on the agenda, but I've noticed most agenda items are added by Lindsay and I, and that is fine. But this is not. That's definitely not the intent for Lindsay and I to set the agenda. It's for all of us to set the agenda. So you can add things to discuss before the meeting or during the meeting. So anything else that folks would like to discuss and bring up to the group or ask of the group?
I got a question. How did the last release go? Was a couple of days ago, wasn't it?
Let the product managers answer that. I think it went quite well, but like to hear Matt and Sam's opinions on that.
Yeah, I can go first. So it went well on the container security side. We were able to get the WAF statistics feature out the door. That's one that we've been working on for quite a while. So where right now we've got the WAF functionality that can deploy a WAF in front of a customer's production environment. This is really our first effort to provide some visibility into what that's actually doing in the GitLab UI. So it's kind of a basic set of functionality, but it's also, a minimal viable change. So it's that first pass at displaying, here's how much traffic is processing, and here's how much of that we've found to be anomalous. We also were able to add a simple on-off toggle for the WAF, and the one piece of that that we didn't quite make into the release is the ability to also switch the WAF between logging and blocking mode. So on that one, we got really close. That'll be in the next release. But again, just building out a little bit of extra functionality to make that feature more usable for our customers.
Cool. On the now named Thread Insights label, Tiago, I don't know if you were checking things out. You may have noticed that the group names recently were changed, probably since the time you interviewed to today.
I did. I don't quite understand, but I did hear about it.
So
We'll just blame David for all those changes. That's usually.
Yeah, I would say cross our fingers that there's no more FY21 budget conversations happening that I don't know about. But I think we're done, at least for the next 9 to 10 months.
So the newly renamed Thread Insights group, we have been working for, I think, several releases now on what has become it's a very large piece of, it's almost kind of rework, but we are adding a lot of functionality to something we're calling internally. You may hear it called first-class vulnerabilities or standalone vulnerabilities. I think that's the name that we've decided should be used as a more customer-facing going forward. But it's a redo of how we handle the vulnerability findings today. So they're moving from, it's almost kind of meta information to being their own objects. So you can individually link to them. They will have their own URLs. It's kind of laying the groundwork for where we want to take vulnerability management in the future. The team has done a ton of work, almost all of which is sitting behind a feature flag. So we're going to target this next release for the big reveal where we're going to pull the feature flag off. One thing that did go out, which is kind of an interesting byproduct of the way that we work, a different team released a feature for vulnerability management, which was multi-select. So you can now hit, the typical little hit at the top, select everything on the screen, so you can do kind of a mass dismissal or updating of things.
It's great that feature's making progress as well. This first-class vulns and the vuln export, as well as there is a large customer. We don't say customer names publicly, but that really wants to see that those both go live in 12.10. So we were surely marching towards it, and we're on track for it.
I did read about that, trying to maintain that customer on Ultimate. So it sounds all very positive. Thanks for detailing for me.
Anything have anyone else? Quick question, Tiago. Thank you. I guess I'll throw one of the things. Zamir did a demo of the WAF on-off configurability. Zamir, if you could post it in here too, so people can find it, that'd be great. It's also in the Defend stage playlist. But neat stuff, great stuff. Great all the work that went behind it, and also great to see a nice quick demo of it working as well. I think we're going to make a rule that in the next one, if all the agenda items are by Lindsay and I, then we're going to cancel the meeting. So
I'm just going to start putting really outlandish agenda items out there for everybody. We'll see how long that lasts. All right, it's a challenge. It's on. Next staff meeting. It's going to be crazy. I think it's really early in the morning for me too. So start thinking ahead, guys. I will share this on YouTube as well as in Slack. And in the meantime, we'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks in the staff meeting. And Tiago, we're looking forward to having you here permanently.
Likewise. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.